Between August 4th, 1964 and January 27th, 1973, close to 9 million troops served in Vietnam. More than 58,000 of them never returned. It has now been 50 years since the onset of the war, and we'd like to mark the occasion by honoring the memory of all the men and women who served during this era. In tribute is the story of Army Special Forces Clyde Sincere.
I always thought I was invincible and nothing would ever happen. But the first time I was wounded, I peed in my pants. I was scared, didn't think it could happen. I went out with the unit. There were some minor skirmishes. We captured some prisoners, and I elected to take them home back to Pleiku. Then while I was back in Pleiku, the next morning my sergeant major came in and said, "Sir, the unit is being hit very heavy. You may want to go and check on it." The supply officer for the C team came running out. His name was Paul Hess, just a young first lieutenant. And he said, "Can I go with you?" And he said, "I'll ride just for the ride." I said, "Sure." So he took his weapon and he jumped in next to the gunner. The gunner on the right side was a staff sergeant by the name of Leonard, and he was going home. His tour was over. He was leaving that day. So we flew back out to the dry lake bed on the Cambodian border where we had taken off the day before. All hell broke loose, and Leonard and Hess were killed immediately at 51 caliber. The lieutenant was wounded. The gunner on the other side went right through that soft-skinned Huey, and Al Cartwright turned and said, "Clyde, somebody's got to get out." He says, "We're going down." So I said, "I guess that means me," because he was flying. So I jumped out, and Hess's weapon fell out of the aircraft by that time on the ground, and I picked it up, and I started running towards the woods. And I said, "Whoops." Wrong colored uniforms were coming out of that woods towards me. And they threw a grenade and got me in the chest and legs. And I laid there for a couple hours, bleeding profusely, scared and bloody. Basically, my guys by that time saw what was happening, came down, and to hear them talking was the sweetest words I had heard in a long time, and they got me back to our lines. And I would say that was probably the biggest fight of my life. We were moving down a hill, 709, and I remember that. And we got ambushed, and we got ambushed, and we got ambushed. One of my guys, Kurt Weissen, was wounded, caught a MAP 49, a French weapon. So when I went down, I fell into a pit. It was full of punji's steaks, and they were tipped with feces. I mean, that was a normal, and so that basically is what happened. But when I got to Weissen, he was alive, and he said, and he was a medic. He said, "Sir, I'm hurting," and he had been gut shot in that. And he said, "Well, give me a shot of morphine." Well, he's a medic. I was so nervous. I'm trying to punch that morphine into his leg. I didn't extract the little T-pin, and I was bleeding. So I did it, and put it in him, carried him back up the mountain. My other medic says, "Sir, you son of a bitch, you're never supposed to give a man with a sucking chest wound morphine." I said, "Now you two guys get your act in order. He's a medic, you're a medic." He says, "Give me a shot." You say, "Don't give him a shot." And he gave him another shot of something too. Thinking that we tagged him, that he had morphine and that, and shipped him off. But I always remember, Kurt still loves me today. Every time he sees me, he says, "Sir, you saved my life." And I'm saying, boy, another guy said, "I'm gonna kill you." On the 30th of June of '68, Khe Sanh closed. All Marine and Army elements, to include the 1st Air Cav, everybody left. We turned it over to Charlie, just walked away. We really ran away. I maintained, overlooking the Khe Sanh, a radio relay site on top of a mountain, and I could look down on Khe Sanh and all of its occupants that were now from North Vietnam. 99% of all missions were reconnaissance If I recall, we lost 10 complete teams to this day that we never heard of again. When I retired, I was offered to take a VA physical. But I used the phrase that I was 192 pounds of romp and stomping airborne hell. I was in excellent shape. I didn't think my government owed me anything. I was proud to have served my country. But here, 31 years later, I'm a wreck. I made almost 1,000 jumps, 985. But my knees, my legs, it's taken its toll.